So I gently dab the Q-tip over the tip of the needle, then pull the needle back into the airbrush. Make sure that the paint is wicking onto the needle. Continue to clean the little globs off at the base of the needle. Test it. Working great. Back to work. Okay. So see how I'm leaving some areas of light and dark in there? Then I'll come down here and add some areas of depth into the lowest part of the mane around the withers. You ever notice how a lot of horses will have like a lot of really interesting variation, but mostly have like either really dark or really light hair in the wither area? Like I was looking at pictures of Norwegian fjords the other day, and you know how like they have the frosting on the sides, it makes their mane white, and when they're roached they have that black part in the center, but almost all of them have a really interesting area at the bottom where the mane goes like almost completely black. So cool. You know, I've lived with real horses almost my whole life, but I never learned as much about them as I have since I've been in the model horse business. I mean, the amount of detail and knowledge that this requires just amazes me. Okay, can't forget our tail. Let's see, we want to go darker to lighter, it looks like. I'm kind of liking this little dark patch in the middle. That's pretty neat. Can you see that? Make sure to get underneath. That's looking pretty neat. I like to stop and hold the horse away from me a little bit to kind of get a feel for how it looks when you walk up to it on the table, or how it's going to look up on the shelf. The way you see it up close and the way it looks from far away can be completely different. You think you have all this detail when you see it up close, but out here it's like, oh, that's just a big glob. Let's work on that some more. So it's important to hold your work away from you. And as I do, I see all the different colors of the mane on this side. I just love the way that's looking. And the forelock's kind of fun. It's a dirty blonde color. So I don't know whether I'm going to change that or not. I really like the way that looks. It's fun. That little sort of a silvery gray tip on the end and a streak of blonde in the middle. It's a nice contrast with the almost livery color. Okay, gotta work on this side of the tail now. I'm starting to get a little paint build up on the needle again, so I'm gonna need to clean that in a minute. Because I don't want it to fly off and stick to my paintwork. When that does happen, and it will invariably happen, the best thing to do is let it dry, that little glob, and then pick it off, either with an X-Acto knife or those carbide scrapers that are made by Rio Rondo are just great for that. Okay, getting a little overspray again on my braid in the middle. See how it's getting kind of a dirty look to it? We want to keep that edge nice and clean. There are times when you just can't rescue it. You know, if you get too much overspray on something, and you may have to paint it over again, which is a pain. I hate having to do things 2 and 3 times, so I try to prevent that if at all possible. And you can always mask off areas that, when you're working with airbrush, you can mask off an area that you don't want overspray on. And that works okay if you have like really good masking, or there, got that cleaned up. I'll make sure I'm not getting that on the mane too. I am a little bit here. If you have good masking that's not going to peel off all the paint that you have already put on, or if you are masking off an area that's going to be white anyway, you don't have to worry about it peeling off the paint, just the primer, so that's something to be cautious of. And another thing you can do is, if your overspray is not coming off easily, you can mix a little bit of water with a little bit of Windex, and that will help the overspray to lift off a little better. But you have to be real careful, because you get too aggressive with it, it will take off your paint. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm liking that. We need to go a little bit darker in the dark areas, but we're getting some really interesting color variations. I love the way that's turning out. I want to put just a hint of color in this white so it's not so stark white. There we go. And look how pretty this is, where this darker color is going over top of the reds. It's just beautiful. It's giving this just soft, rich color. Remember to work over on both sides so that your streaks look like they're actually growing out of the neck and not starting halfway down. And this does have a little curve to it, so you have to paint up underneath of it. Can't forget that. But see the control you can get when you have the retarder mixed in with a nice fine paint. It just gives you hair fine lines. Just a lovely, lovely finish. Now we're starting to really get some depth and some pretty linear work. That whistling you hear is when the air is starting to spray down into these holes that I had to drill for the standards. The standards are the little rosettes that'll be going into his mane after he's done. And make sure you get the sides, otherwise it'll look half painted. And blend this. See where this forelock's coming out of this mane. You want to make sure that all matches. Make sure the colors are all the same. It's starting to look really cool. Isn't that pretty? Gotta do the same with the tail. I'm so torn. I don't know whether to make it go dark to light or just have streaks and patches, and I'll just keep working on it and see how it looks. I can't really see the reference photo's complete tail. The horse is sort of turned and facing us. I need to get some darker areas of interest in this tail. Since this horse's liver, it allows us to really work in some pretty darks along with all the other flaxen and silver and cream and ivory. Of course, has so many neat colors. I get so into the painting, I forget I'm videoing, so forgive me if I stop talking for a minute or two. See right there, it got me an overspray I need to clean off, and I didn't even notice it when I did it. Thank goodness for Tester's dull coat. Okay, that's looking pretty fun. I think we need a little more work on this inside section of the braid. It looks like I've missed painting most of those right there. I'm adding just a little shading down in between these. I'll probably go back later with some pastels and like kind of fill in the darker areas and fill in the cracks and stuff like that. But that's the tail so far. Isn't that fun? And here's our mane. I'm going to keep working on building up some more darker areas in the mane. I think I'll work on this side. My hand's getting a little tired holding it that way. Plus, I think you can see a little better. Remember, start with air. See, I'm spraying air but no paint. And then slowly pull back for the paint. And release as you get to the area where you want to stop. And these nice hair thin lines. Getting some nice dark areas now. And don't forget to leave your light areas. Leave them alone. I know it's so hard. You want to paint the whole thing. You don't want it to look unpainted, but it's not going to look unpainted. It just looks like it's got some variation and some streaks, and that's the way hair looks. Isn't that pretty? Love the way the tail's looking. I think with the tail, I'm going to do darker areas in the middle instead of light to dark. It's just looking really cool like that. So I'm going to build up some more darker areas in the tail. Okay, I'm going to clean the tip of the needle. See that little chunk that's on the end of there? Can you see that? That was about to come off on our horse. Can't have that.